Hello, how are you? I hope you're good. Welcome to a very chill video, as per. And today I'm talking about the books that I have read throughout the O.W.L.s readathon, which was the month of April. I have finished 8 books and those were all the ones that I needed for my chosen career. If you don't know about the O.W.L.s, I will link the video that I announced it down below. I hope you guys managed well. I know times are scary. I hope you are well in general. If you didn't manage to read what you wanted during the O.W.L.s, remember that you can set your own deadlines. I feel like this year more than ever, extenuating circumstances would apply. And Madame Pomfrey, I think, will write you a slip, so if you need to, you got time. I didn't read the Harry Potter one, but in total I had 0 5 stars, 2 4 stars, 4 3 stars, and 1 2-star read. So overall, not too bad, but definitely not great as to how I like the books, but that seems to be just like a theme for my life since like mid-2019, I think. So I'm gonna go through the books just now, but also at the very end I will show you the diploma that I made for us to print out. The actual diplomas for the careers and the seminars are gonna be at the end of the nudes because the careers and the seminars require both O.W.L.s and the nudes. However, I wanted something to print out basically, so I made the same kind of like results letter that Harry gets in his 6th year, and I'll show you that at the very end when I can fill it in for myself as well and officially end the O.W.L.s. Sorry if the light changes 15 times a day today, so it is what it is. So the first book that I started in the month of April, but also the last book that I finished, was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This is a reread for me, and I feel like I'll skip the description of Harry Potter because that would be a bit silly of me at the moment. But this time, this reread, I was just not really feeling in a Harry Potter mood, which is surprising. Although I did go through periods of absolutely loving it, and then of some periods I just wanted to read something new, which is understandable. Although admittedly at first with Harry Potter, I found that I noticed a lot of details reading this because I was paying extra attention as I was gathering questions that would be kind of tricky for our magical Twitter for people to participate in. And I've noticed a lot of things that I didn't catch on previously. And I think especially during this reread, I realized how nasty Snape was. I mean, I am a fan of the character because it's so complex, but I was never one of those people who think that he was a hero in any way. I believe that he made amazing sacrifices. However, I think he has chosen to be horrible and be a bully to kids and adults alike. I understand that he himself was bullied, but just because of that I would not justify his actions. I would empathize with him, but I would not justify him being a bully in turn. But in this particular book I just really noticed so much of his horridness. And a new scene really edged into my brain was when Oliver Wood with the whole team finally win the Quidditch Cup, and when they all start crying together. That really got me in the feels this time. So I obviously still really enjoyed it. It was just a little bit difficult this time to pick it up at some points, but I think I was just overall really mentally tired rather than anything else. And because I was looking for all the questions, I couldn't just kind of like relax and read it, if that makes sense. I had to be a bit more attentive, and I think that's probably why as well. But let's move on to something that wasn't a reread. The next thing that I read was Heartstopper Volume 3. Now, Heartstopper is a story about a schoolboy who is openly gay now. However, the way that he came out was not really to his liking or initiated by him, but that is all kind of in the past, but we do keep going back there in like little flashbacks. But this is a story about him finding another guy that he really starts liking, and to that other guy everything is very new. So I actually found the first volume, I mean, this is a chunker, just to compare with the Harry Potter book. So yeah, the first one I found really heartwarming. I still didn't think that I learned anything, obviously. Well, I say obviously, just for me personally, I didn't really learn anything, but I do think that this is amazing as an option for people who are just starting to develop. But obviously it is definitely not limited to that audience. I just think that it's great that it's out there. So whilst I really enjoyed the first one, second one was also okay because I really read it fast after the first one, so there wasn't that much of a gap between those two, and I think I read it kind of more as a continuation, which it is, like it even follows like the page numbers continue, but because I had a little bit of a gap between the second and the third, it's just very much more of the same, and it's old very quickly. So to me it was a 3-star. Very much in the middle. It's still very cute, but it was just okay, and I think I don't know if I'm gonna continue. The next book I finished was The Flat Share. This has been going around the internet for a while now, but I am late to the hype train, as I am late to literally everything. I'm actually very punctual, but like when trends go, very late. Regardless, The Flat Share is a story about what are their names? Tiffy, who is a editor in a very small kind of DIY type of book publishers. Leon, who is a nighttime nurse, who works in a palliative care, by the way, which I did not know before getting... Oh, I found the bookmark in here. Before getting into this, so keep that in mind if that's something that also semi-triggers you as well. But thankfully there was actually not that much triggering stuff for me personally in this. Tiffy starts off in a situation where she desperately needs to move out of her ex-boyfriend's house, and she needs to find something in London, but she really needs it to be super affordable, and on the very short notice that she needs it, she has very limited choices, and some are less than desirable. On the other hand, we have Leon, who really hates borrowing more money from his current girlfriend for the rent that's quite expensive, for the flat that he only sleeps during the day in it because he's so busy working. Basically, Tiffy ends up sharing the same flat but also the same bed with this guy and never meeting them. They do start kind of exchanging notes through the flat, so they're just sticking notes, and that's how they get to know each other. However, what I liked about this the most was not even the romance, but was the side plot things. So from Tiffy's side, we obviously have some red flags from the very beginning about her boyfriend, and also it is said in the synopsis, so I don't think it's a spoiler, but the ex-boyfriend is obsessive and he is very problematic, and we do kind of come to that realization from her being hung up on him to later in the book, where she also starts seeing it from other people's perspective, and I really liked how that was done. I think it was done very gently but also really believably, and there are some insights into that kind of relationship and the manipulations that are so deeply ingrained in you when you're in that kind of relationship, and I just thought it was very well done, especially since this is not necessarily directed at that topic. And then from the Leon side, we have his brother, who has been wrongfully convicted and imprisoned for a crime he did not commit, and we follow that story as well. So I honestly really enjoyed both of these sides. I thought they were very insightful and very interesting, especially to kind of enrich this book and to make it a bit more than just a love story. The love story aspect was also very cute. I think the first half of the book I enjoyed a little bit more, but I was rooting for them, sort of. I wasn't totally like head over heels for either of these characters. I really enjoyed my experience reading this. I read this fairly quickly, and I think I will come back to it mentally and think about it constantly. But I really am glad that I read it, and I would highly recommend. This got 4 stars. I think the end was a little bit, I think there was a bit like one too many things at the very end there. I don't want to say I don't want to spoil it. I think it was dramatic at some points. I don't think this is gonna be a story that's gonna stick with me, but I just really still would recommend it if you're looking for something like that. So that's the first 4-star, and then the second one is Heart So Fierce and Broken, which is a continuation to The Curse of Dark and Lonely. And A Curse of Dark and Lonely is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which is actually not one of my favorite stories. I really enjoyed the take on this. So the first book is basically about this girl being kidnapped from her time and taken into this alternative kind of magical place called Emberfall, where the prince is under a curse. However, our main character is very different from your normal Belle. First of all, she has cerebral palsy, so she is disabled, and she really is extra fierce to overcome that. And it's a story about her falling in love with the kingdom first, definitely, rather than falling in love with the king or a knight who is named Grey, because there's a little bit of like a triangle going on in the first one. But the second book actually follows Grey, because we learn something in the very end of the first book that changes everything in our perspectives, and this book very much focuses on Grey and this new character from a faraway kingdom that is supposed to be an enemy of Emberfall. And I honestly maybe enjoyed this book more. It has been a little while since I enjoyed reading a YA fantasy book. And I was so glad to be back in this story. I adore Bridget's writing style. It's like a perfect fit for me, because the sentences are smart and they're sophisticated, and they are meaningful, but they are simple, and that is my favorite writing style. I think that Brandon Sanderson has that kind of writing style, in my opinion. Not to say that they're very similar, but I like simple yet meaningful and punchy sentences, if you know what I mean. Like, as I don't think that things have to be too elaborate. I actually think that sometimes shorter sentences or shorter sequences mean more if it's just worded correctly. I just like precise things. So I was just so happy to get back into that, and I might try some of her contemporary books, because I haven't. I think the book was very nicely paced. I was never really bored, and things moved fairly quickly, however not too rushed. I think that I've learned about the new characters and got attached to the new characters fairly easily, and one of them was even a kid, which is amazing because I don't really get attached to kid characters. But this one was pretty cool. I will say that the epilogue, the bane of my bloody existence, because it's becoming a theme that every book that has an epilogue just really ruins it for me, and this one was kind of not an exception. I can get behind with that idea, but I just wish it wasn't like that. It explains a lot of things, but it also infuriates me so much. So I don't know what we're gonna do with the third book, but I kind of need it, and I need it soon. So anyway, this one got a very strong 4-star, and I don't know if it actually would have reached 5 stars if the ending was a bit different. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I kind of wish I didn't go chronologically here, because now we're left with something that is definitely not a 4-star. And it's a very low 3-star actually, and that is Fence. So Fence is a comic book about this guy that has been abandoned by his father, and he finds out the father is actually a very famous fencer. Is that how you call them? Fencing professional. And he works his ass off to basically get a very kind of crappy teacher to learn how to fence, and then he goes into the school, and his scholarship depends on the fencing. And the guy's very ambitious, I think kind of driven by the bitterness, and he wants kind of like to prove himself. There's this other guy that he met in the regionals, and they really don't get along. The other guy is just much better fencer, and he's like a proper professional, and he gets really upset by the fact that he actually gets beaten and then professes his like revenge upon him, which I thought was ridiculous because obviously he would win. Overall, I even marked it when I started reading it because it was so, this is so dramatic and it moves so quickly. It makes no sense. Like, there's one teacher that sees our main character, I can't remember the names, Nicholas, fencing for literally 3 seconds, and she's saying like, oh my god, I know this fencing way, and she like backflashes basically to his father, and I'm like, sure, because you could definitely see, even though these people were trained by absolutely different people and they've never met, and obviously nature versus nurture, pff, what is nurture either way? So it was just so dramatic in every way, and the writing was like so, I refuse to believe that people speak like that. However, I was intrigued by the end of it despite myself. There is something about sport-focused comics and graphic novels and cartoons that gets me. Do I actually like sports stuff in real life? No, apparently only fictional ones, and only like Quidditch or cartoonish types. But I'm so invested to see who made it through tryouts, and man, I will be reading the second one, but I don't think this is good. So it's a weird one. That's why I got a 3-star, not a 2-star, because I want to know more. And there are a couple of characters that I did like, and I do like the art style as well. That's the kind of style that I do like, but it was just so cheesy. I think the writing was not the best for sure, and it felt pretty juvenile, but also just the whole plot was ridiculous in my mind. But I will be continuing. I just probably gonna try and get a Kindle version so it's cheaper, and I doubt that I'm gonna have it in my library, but I'll find it somewhere. I don't think I'll be buying a physical copy desk because it's just expensive. I don't have bad memories of reading it though, because I was just so amused by some of the dramaticness of it that I just had a good time reading it. Which I cannot say about the next one, which was such a big letdown because I had such high hopes, which I should know better by now, but I did. And that was Mooncakes. I'm so sad to say, and I feel like I'm gonna get hate for this. But you know, to each its own. I'm happy if you love this. I obviously want to love things when I read them as well, but I just couldn't do it with this one. And the main thing, like, I will say, the art style is beautiful. It's so gorgeous. I actually really like it. I think it's really pretty. The magic, beautiful. The characters, diverse, and the plot, a hot mess. There's a person coming back from the main character's past, and they have been really good friends and are now shown to have romantic feelings for each other. However, this was trying to be presented as a slow burn of a romance because they knew each other previously, but we only kind of have like one panel of that, so in real time it felt very much like insta-love, I was not rooting for them because I didn't feel like I knew them at all. Neither the main character or the one that came back. The one that comes back clearly is hiding something and they bring trouble, but it's very kind of vague and you don't really understand the reason what is happening. I understood everything that was happening, but I just didn't understand why are we involved in this. This also had one of those annoying things where the two grandmothers of the main character were extremely powerful witches, and they just let their 18-year-old or something, I don't actually know how old she is, a teen, maybe 20? No, I don't know. They let their granddaughter to just go and hunt this like demon that they don't even know how dangerous they are, and then they do know how dangerous it is, and they still let her go alone even though they're right there available. I don't understand. If you want your granddaughter to learn, you can also go with her. It's not just like one or the other. Boggles my mind. This was just frustrating more than anything because the artwork is so beautiful and I really wanted the story to be something that I love, and I thought I would because I love Sabrina, and this basically is that, but with way more representation. Basically, I truly believe that this was put out in the world not with the main purpose of telling a story, and I just don't like that in a book where I'm seeking a story. But it was cute in ways, and the artwork is beautiful, so it did get 2 stars from me, but it was a massive letdown. It was just so disappointed, but I'm super glad if you guys liked it, and I wish I did too, but... Then we have The Shadows Between Us. This is a story about a second daughter of this guy, I can't remember the title now. I want to say Duke? Maybe not. And she is very begrudged by the fact that she is the second daughter, and she's kind of like on the bench until her older daughter gets married off, and she's just sick and tired of being always second and always seen as almost a backup. So she lives a wild life considered in that community, and she's definitely all for women should have the same rights as men. This is the type of world that you're supposed to save yourself for the husband, and the husband can sleep with whoever, and she definitely breaks that. And then actively actually seeks out to change that as a rule. So that was a big theme I found in this book, that it is okay to sleep with people or wait till you're married, because it should be your choice. But basically, she goes and tries to woo the Shadow King, who is like the king of the land. But she also has the plan to murder him once she has done so, because she wants to be the queen of the land. She does not want to co-rule with anyone, she just wants to do that herself. We start in the first chapter where she talks about murdering her first love because he rejected her. Not a great reason to murder someone, but that gives us an idea of the character. This character is not supposed to be likable. However, I will say that I was super excited when I started reading it because I was like, okay, we finally are actually getting a morally gray character. I did, however, feel like I have to take that back now after finishing it, because I feel like she kind of forgot about her whole like morally grayness in the middle somewhere. Maybe it was her way of changing, but I kind of wanted to see just a smidge more of that peeking through later on. And the end just kind of fell flat for me. I don't know what it was about it. I feel like, again, there was too many things done like close to one another. I feel like people should stick with one twist, just because when they try to do too much, I think that it loses, that both points lose like kind of sweetness of it. So it actually got a really strong 3-star, like a midweight 3-star. But I did really enjoy it. I think enjoyment was one of the higher points in the scale. The writing style was actually not my favorite. This is a very different kind of simple writing to this. This writing style actually reminded me a lot of Caraval. There's also a lot of focus on her dresses and descriptions on her dresses, which is totally fine because she is focused on her dresses, because she is kind of like a self-made tailor. That's what she does, that's what she loves, and she's like setting the trends and whatnot, and which is all nice and good. I just don't care. Personally, I don't care, and I start skipping the descriptions. Some people might love this, but that also why it reminded me of Caraval, because there's so much dress talks there as well. It got old pretty quickly, but it was very playful and it was very easy to read, and I think I enjoyed it overall. It's definitely, again, not the one that's gonna stick with me, and I was way more excited for the first half of the book, but it lacked substance to me a little bit, and I think the idea was really good. So I really liked the concept of the whole setup, and I really liked her fierceness and just kind of being unapologetic about things in the first half, because you don't have to have a problematic book just because you have a problematic character. You don't have to set some sort of living standard with your main character being all goody-goody. This is a book, you know? Like, you can have a problematic character because it's fun to read about something that's different, and you don't have to follow their morale, and you can make your own decisions. I feel like we should be there now, because I feel like I was so excited by the beginning of this book, because I felt like we're finally moving away from this cookie cutter template of the YA main character, because I swear to God, I feel like I've been reading about the same character in all of the books. And then the last book that I read was Check Please. This was very different from Fence, and however it got the same rating. Actually, this one got a bit higher rating. This one definitely has way more of kind of like cursing type of, that one is a bit more PG, this one is a bit more new adult, I suppose. There's a lot of cursing basically. It is told in a very odd manner. This is about a guy who moves into college and he joins the hockey team, and he used to be a figure skater, and we all just get snippets. Like, there can be months or weeks between the little snippets. The chapters are extremely short, and the character is just kind of telling us about his life, but it's supposed to be in a vlog form, so it's basically his cooking channel, so we only get like snippets of his like real life updates, and so we see his story through that, which I thought was equal parts unique and also self-sabotaging, because I did not get attached to any of the characters because of that. Shitty was nice, which is a weird sentence to say, that's just the nickname of the person. And the main dude, like the main like interest, what's his name? I'm so bad with names. I want to say Jack, but that might not be right. Was also nice, but because I think of that and the super bro talk, this has such language that at first I was like, oh, that's really kind of like how people talk, and I swear a lot as well, so I didn't find any issues with that. But oh my god, the bro talk got so much at some points because it was just so intense. I was tired of it. I was like, I just want to know stuff. Like, stop putting all of these words that cloud information. So I found that we only got the fast bits, and I think I just didn't get to know characters, and it was both overwhelming and also not enough. So it was a weird one, and I don't know if I will actually read the other one, because one of the lowest points in the system here was the intrigue. I was just not intrigued. I could have put down the story in any way, any place. So I don't think I will be continuing with it. I don't like regret reading it or anything, but I just don't think I connected to any of the characters. So that's that. Regardless, I had some good books. I think my favorite was probably Hearts So Fierce and Broken, because I really loved it. I really loved it. And I only have one book for the May TBR because I'm continuing with my secret TBR. Not that anyone cares. So I think that's gonna be most of my May reading. However, I do have a book with that I'm reading with both my Patreon group and with the Read, Rate, Review group, which we're gonna meet at the very beginning of June. Make sure to follow the Twitter page so you know if the time changes or anything. We would love to have you in the live stream. The book is The City of Brass, and I am so excited to start this for two main reasons. One, at the very back it says the best adult fantasy I've read since The Name of the Wind, which is my favorite book, and it's also said by Sabbath here, which I also really enjoyed. Her first book I haven't continued yet, but and two, I have multiple friends and a lot of you guys on my Patreon saying that you have loved this book. I don't think I've actually heard of anyone really disliking it, or people that I share my taste somewhat to saying that they were disappointed in this. So I'm very excited. I was trying to be cautious about it, but screw it. I'm just very excited, so watch me hate it. The very last bit that I want to mention are the printables, which I will link down below in the description bar as well, so you can find them on the G Drive. There is a parchment and a white paper, if you're printing on parchment paper, versions as per usual, and these are pretty self-explanatory. They're similar to last year's, just a little bit amped up, a little bit refreshed. That's how they look like. You can write your name and also mark what you passed and what was not applicable for you this year. So I passed 8 exams, 7 for my career and 1 for hopefully Mer People Linguistics, but I also have to pass the newts as well. It's signed by Albus Dumbledore, so that's nice. I will obviously link these down below if you want to just have a little printable to commemorate your efforts in April 2020. But that is everything. I hope you are well. Let me know how your reading has gone, and I think especially let me know what your best read was from the books that you have read in April, be it for O.W.L.s or not. And also, if you know my taste, if you think that I would personally like that book, because I'm trying to get like a list of books I want to get at some point, because I haven't gotten any new books in ages. And I'm getting itchy. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!